this one I would say is the tightest one in terms of where the money's going. There's a lot of underdog money on this one. We've got the Winnipeg Jets coming in at plus 115 versus the Colorado Avalanche coming in at minus 140. The season series, the Jets absolutely dominated the Avalanche. They kicked the shit out of them twice. One game was 7-0, one game was 6-2. They outscored them head to head in that 3-game series, 17 goals to 4, which is insane to think about. So Winnipeg had their number this season. Not to mention, Winnipeg is coming into the playoffs on an 8-game winning streak. They look really, really good. And the Avs, they were hot after the trade deadline, but here as of late, they've kind of fumble fucked their way into the playoffs. They lost the home ice advantage. So this is going to be a very interesting series. We've got the highest powered offense versus probably one of, if not the best defenses in the league. So what are your guys' thoughts?
This is another tough one. I know we've said that pretty much about every matchup so far, maybe save for Carolina and the Islanders. But I look at this as the Avs offense and Cale Makar, which counts, versus Connor Hellebuck and the Jets' ability to play fuck you, shut down playoff hockey. And I think the other thing you have to look at with the Avalanche is you have to go win at least one game in Winnipeg, which is no easy task by any means. That building is going to be rocking the entire time.
Yeah, I mean that's all very true. I think in almost any other matchup, I'm picking the Avs to get out of the first round. I just don't know if I can do that against the Jets. Like the hot hand, also they've had their number, also just, hot at the right time. It's just coming into the playoffs on a win streak like that, and in the way they've been winning those games, for me, it's a lot of not necessarily blowouts, but just like decided victories. You know what I mean? Like
Convincing
just
wins.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so the Avs come in, best offense in the league, like I mentioned, most goals per game, first, fifth best power play, sixth best team shooting percentage. They've got speed galore, Makar, McKinnon, Drouin, Miles Wood, Devon Taves, all these guys. They're insanely good skaters. But then you look over at the Jets, they've got the Vezina winner. He's going to be the Vezina winner in between the pipes. So they've got the best goalie in the NHL. He allowed the second fewest goals in the league, and they tied Florida for best goals against average in the league. So quite literally best offense versus best defense going head to head. They've got size and physicality. Lowry, Appleton, Pionk, Dillon. I mean, all these guys can throw them and chuck them. So, Nick, what are you leaning on here?
So for me, I think the big focal point for this series is going to be like if you're Winnipeg, it's not a question of if, it's when McKinnon and Rantanen and the rest of those guys basically go off and how well you can contain it. I think you can contain it for a couple games, but there's absolutely going to be one of those games where I think Nate Dogg just takes over. We've talked about that, how
Yeah,
he is
that's
one of the
true.
few players that can single-handedly will his team to victory in the playoffs. I don't know, guys. This one is really, really tough for
This
me.
this is the hardest series in the entire playoffs to predict, in my opinion, so far, just because of the public opinion. I mean, there's a lot of Winnipeg people.
This is also one where like I feel like every year there's one where like that's going to be a great series and ends up just being like a 5 game, like nothing was like I do think there's a world where the Avs just are, they don't have a problem with it for some fucking
Like
reason.
every game is 4-1, 5-1, or 5-2, something like that.
Yeah, and as much as I just complimented the Jets, I don't see a way where they win this series in a blowout fashion. I think if the Jets win it, it goes 6 or 7 games and they eke it out. But I do think there's a way where Colorado could just kind of prove everybody wrong that this is not that hard for them, and they'll just go off. That being said, should I say my pick yet or no?
Rip it.
Go for it.
Jets in 7.
I knew that was coming.
Harry.
So I picked the Avalanche to win the cup, like what, 2 weeks after the deadline. They were unreal. It was after they came back from the Pens in that wild Sunday game. I'm worried about Georgiev. He looks horrible. He looks shaky, which is not good coming into the playoffs. He's probably the biggest question mark for me. But woof woof, bitch, the dog is eating. Avs in 7. Let's go.
I'm actually going to go Avs in 7 as well. And Mac, I was so close. Like everything you said about the Jets, I was like, yeah, I got to go Jets in 6, Jets in 7. But Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar,
You don't
Mikko
bet against.
Rantanen.
I'm not betting against that.
I just like, I mean, I said it a couple episodes ago. I'll stand by the fact that Nathan McKinnon can take over a series more effectively than Connor McDavid can.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
But I still think Max smart, and I think anybody who bets the Jets on that plus 115-ish price it's a decent price. I also think it's worth noting that these two teams have never met in the postseason. This will be the first time ever.
Yeah, should be a good one.
So that's kind of cool. And then, like Nick said, McKinnon, he actually had his least amount of points versus the Jets than any other team he played this season. But playoff McKinnon's a freak. It's got the 6th best points per game in NHL history in the playoffs. So he comes and shows up when the chips are on the table. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a great series.
I feel like I always kind of take the regular season matchups going into the playoffs with a grain of salt, just because, like we talked about yesterday, it is a completely different animal to go up against a team in the regular season versus the middle of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
It's pretty much irrelevant. It pretty much doesn't matter.